Welcome to Loving Me Before I Love You with Tammy Nicole, the podcast dedicated to you loving and putting yourself first. Others have come first in your life for years, and you know it's time for that to change. You're about to be empowered to set healthy boundaries, confidently have hard conversations, unapologetically put yourself first, and live the peaceful life you deserve. Remember, self-love is essential, and loving yourself sets the stage for every other love in your life. So get ready to embrace self-love like never before with your host, Coach Tammy Nicole.
Hey, welcome to Loving Me Before I Love You. I am so excited about today's episode, you guys. We are actually concluding our month on leadership. We are here to talk about leadership lessons from the trenches, giving real life stories. And today I have a special guest like no other. I have Mr. Michael Morgan with us. He is an author and he is a motivational speaker. He has a new book that's talking about networking. So you guys definitely want to tune in to understanding how we're networking through life, as well as how we are navigating the career field. Michael, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I appreciate you having me as a guest on your show.
Awesome. I'm really excited about this topic. I have been working on the leadership side of things for the whole month of March. And so this is our conclusion episode, and it's allowing us to kind of like bring things full circle, like learning leadership lessons from the trenches. I think a lot of us have navigated careers by pulling up our bootstraps and moving through life, right? We just kind of like here, there, working here. I think today's age of people don't work at jobs long. They stay there maybe a year, 2 years. You know, back in the day, it used to be like the longer you work at a job, the better you are. The longevity. If you don't have longevity, you're frowned upon. Now it's like, get in, get out, move up.
Exactly. I completely agree.
So tell us, I do want to know a lot more about your book. I know before we came on, you were telling me a little bit about it. So I'm super intrigued. But I want to also kind of like start the people off with, when you hear the word leadership, what is the first thing that comes to mind for you?
So when I hear the word leadership, I think a lot of people misconstrue leadership with management as two different things. So you can lead without authority. You don't need to have a manager title or direct reports to be a leader. To me, being a leader is inspiring. It is motivating. So I can lead my peers, my colleagues, whether they're at the same level as me, whether they're above me, whether they're below me, whether they report to me, whether they don't report to me, but it's the actions that I take. Am I doing anything to build an inclusive workplace and make everyone feel comfortable? Am I doing things to help other people where they're struggling and make sure that I'm elevating the level of productivity of the team? Am I doing things to make my job more efficient for myself and for others who may come and backfill my role in the future? How am I making sure that it's more efficient for the next person and not just handing off the same role that I had 2 years ago, 3 years ago? Like, how am I improving things moving forward? So there's so many things that you can do to exert yourself as a leader. Mm-hmm. But the big thing that I always picture is, how am I inspiring and how am I progressing other people?
Yeah, matter of fact, recently, because I'm a TikTok lover, people know, I'm a scroller in my downtime. And I follow this gentleman. I want to say his name is Ryan. I can't think of his last name right at the moment, but his name is Ryan. He is a conflict resolution specialist, and he does a lot of things like around, what did he say? I see the sign of a movie right now, like The Negotiator or whatever. He does a lot of that. Like, he used to be in law enforcement and things of that nature. And he recently did a TikTok, and it was around the idea of your leadership is where you are, kind of like what you were saying. But his focus was You can be in any spot as long as people are coming to you to get their advice. That means you're a leader. It doesn't mean that you, like you had mentioned earlier, that you have to actually be the manager, the boss. It's what value do you bring?
Exactly. And that's one of the things. So throughout my career, I've started off as an individual contributor. I've made my way into a people manager role. But even before I stepped foot into the people manager role, I had to explain to leadership how I was already exerting myself as a leader without direct reports, by taking on mentors, by helping my team grow and improve, by putting in different automations, by leading projects where I don't have people reporting to me directly, but I'm leading a group of 10 people across different functions in finance, in HR, in legal. So there are ways that I've exerted myself as a leader by starting up employee resource groups. At my current company, there was no Black Employee Network when I joined this company. I created one from the ground up. That's not part of my job, but I exerted myself as a leader. I identified a gap, and I decided to create this employee resource group to build that cultural awareness within the company and build that culture of inclusion and make people feel more comfortable being their authentic selves. Like, these are ways that I was able to show that I'm a leader without necessarily me saying, hey, I have these many direct reports. So by showing leadership that I'm able to lead even without direct reports, that's the perfect transition for me to actually get direct reports. So I feel as though I've been leading for a long time and displayed my leadership skills before I even stepped into that people manager role.
When you think about leadership from that perspective, where does the skill actually get developed?
So I would say the skill gets developed. In my opinion, the best way to develop is by doing. So, I mean, you can speak with your mentors. I think leveraging mentors is great. You can read books, you can take training courses, but the best way to learn is by doing. It's on the job learning. So like I said, you can have that practice by, maybe you can manage interns or manage contractors. So it's not a full-time employee, but it's still a great experience to build it up. Or you can mentor people, and you can mentor people within your company. You can mentor people outside your company. I love to volunteer. I've mentored students at my alma maters. I've mentored students at other colleges and high schools. So there are ways that you can develop your leadership skills and help other people. But it's, in my opinion, the best way is to just by doing. And the more that you do it and it feels more comfortable, the more you learn, the more you get to understand how to navigate and how to lead people better. The way you get to understand what's your leadership style. The way that I lead is different than the next leader. And you have to, you can't just copy and paste what someone else is doing. You have to be yourself, and you have to get a feel of what works for you.
I agree with that. So a person that is lost, right? Like let's just say they have the thought, I think I want to be a leader. I think I want to be in management. Because I think a lot of times, like you were mentioning, we equate leadership to a management role. If that's their goal, typically in careers, that's the goal. The goal is to get to upper management so that you can make a little bit more money, etc. How do they identify within themselves if they actually have the ability or the skill set to lead?
So I would say a good way for them to identify that skill set, and if that's a passion, interest, is leading projects. So a lot of times when you're leading projects, you're not working on a project by yourself. There will be multiple people on a project, whether that's other people that are within your team, within your function, or people on other teams, other functions, but you're in charge of that project. You're in charge of getting the results that they're looking for. You're in charge of executing by the deadline that's set. And if you are passionate and interested in leading a project and leading multiple team and getting everyone on board towards the same common goal and getting people to work in a synergistic manner where individually if people individually can only provide X amount of value, but when you aggregate people together, now the output is even better than it would have been individually. Like
Mm-hmm.
those are signs that you can be a great leader, or that's potentially a passion for you. That's a path for you. So as a manager, I should be able to identify and see where I see certain traits. I should be able to identify this person may be on the right path, and I as a manager, I should ask people and get a feel, is this something that you want to do? Because like you said, everybody doesn't want to pursue that. There are different paths. There are some people don't want to manage, and you can go down an individual contributor route, and you could be a subject matter expert and get to like a principal role, or some people want to get into that people manager role. But as a manager, you should identify what your direct reports are interested in, what they're passionate about, what their interests are, what are their aspirations, and have those conversations and put them on the right projects or deliverables where they can hone in on those skills and develop those skills, so that they can make that jump if that's something that they want to pursue.
So when you talk about that from a standpoint of a manager, really like looking and seeing the spark in a particular employee who you're like, you know what, I see something in them. They can actually grow this skill set. How do you actually get them motivated to want to try? Right? Because sometimes people are comfortable being in the passenger seat. You know what I mean? Like they're comfortable in that space. And even if they have the skill set or the ability to lead, they may be afraid, which is kind of like how I feel from a self-love perspective. A lot of times we have beat ourselves up so bad that doing something like leadership is scary, right? If we don't really tap into, yeah, you can, and build yourself up to do so. Sometimes it takes somebody else to see something in you and then pull it out of you.
So I would say multiple things to that.
Okay.
First and foremost, I try to make sure that people understand it's okay to fail. Like nobody's perfect. I've made mistakes in my career. I know other people have made mistakes. It's a matter of what did you learn from those mistakes and how do you improve and move forward. So if I empower somebody, if someone's reporting to me and I empower them and give them responsibility to lead, I don't want them to feel as though if they make a mistake, they're automatically fired or they're in trouble. Like that's not good leadership. I'm empowering you to learn, to grow. If you make a mistake, let's talk about it. What did you learn from it? How can we move forward? How can we improve and make sure that the same situation doesn't happen again? So I would say first and foremost, I'm like building that confidence where it's okay to fail. Like this is a learning process and things like this will happen and then you grow, you mature. I would say that's very critical. I would say the second piece, I try to make sure that I'm giving the right opportunity, but I'm not pushing them. I have to make sure that this is something that they're actually interested in. There's alignment. So I think that's a critical piece. Having that discussion, is this something that they even want? And if it is something that they want, every individual is different. So some people, they may be motivated on becoming a people manager because it may come with more money. They may be driven by compensation specifically. Other people, they may just enjoy managing people and leading people and helping developing them. So you have to really understand what motivates that individual person, and that will help convince them that, okay, maybe I should pursue people management because this will get me the compensation I'm looking for, or maybe I should pursue people management because I enjoy developing and building up people. So once I get an understanding of what drives that individual, that really helps with the conversation to see if that's the right path. And I can motivate them once I know what they're actually looking for.
Do you think vulnerability plays a role in leadership?
I'd say absolutely. So with the teams that I've had, some of the best teams I've led is because I was authentic and open and genuine with them. I shared my personal stories in life, in my career, they did the same with me. And the fact that I was open and authentic and genuine with them, I felt like we all built a really strong relationship, and they felt comfortable where they can come to me and speak to me about anything. And because we had built such a strong relationship, and I had built that culture of inclusion where people felt comfortable speaking to me, people were willing to work harder for me. So, by me bringing down my walls and sharing, like I said, I've been an open book to the people that have worked for me, and I'll share my experiences as a Black man in tech, as a Black man in a specific company, and how I felt going through my journey. And what I've experienced is different than a Hispanic woman, is different than an Asian man, is different than an Indian man. Everyone has different stories, different journeys. But by me breaking down my wall and being open and authentic and sharing things with them that they may not have understood, they didn't realize, because obviously we're different. We come from different backgrounds. We're just different people. They appreciate it, and it really helps give them different perspective.
Is there a limit to it, or what is the limit? Because sometimes, when you go to work in general, right? If we even take leadership out of the equation and we just talk about general coworker relationships, the rule of thumb is don't share too much on your job, right? Like that's what people teach you, tell you. You can't share too much about your personal life. Everything you talk about on the job should be about the job or something career focused, quote unquote. When you move into leadership, and as you just mentioned, vulnerability being a key to connection, because I do think that people need to learn to connect with one another and feel some level of unity, in a way of saying, I can trust you. It's really what it boils down to, being able to trust a person. How do you put up the parameters? How do you say, you're my direct report, I can't share X, Y, and Z with you, but I can share this? Like, how do you learn those skill sets?
Yeah. So, I mean, I try to be as open with my direct reports as possible. I won't get too into details when it comes to like my family, my partner. Like I will let them know, hey, I have this many siblings. These are my parents. This is where we're from. This is my partner, my wife, my fiance. I'll get into those details in a high level. I won't get into too many specifics on like the relationship itself, because I feel they should get to know me. They don't need to know. I don't want to bring in other people. I don't think they need to know about my family and partner and all, like kids, all those specifics. But I try to be as open as possible about me, about my hobbies, my interests, my experiences, personal experiences in college and life, my career experiences. I'll share all of that. I just try to high level. I'll let them know about my relationships, but I just don't like to bring in too much about other people into the conversation. So that, to me, that's where I kind of try to draw that line.
That's a skill set. that's a skill set. And the only reason I'm saying that is because in general, the average person, when you're building these relationships with quote unquote coworkers, most of the time you build the relationship outside of work. You start on the inside. You start getting, oh, we got this in common, we got that in common, little what I call surface conversations. But when you have figured out that, wait a minute, like I vibe with this person, we're really cool, you tend to take that relationship outside of the workplace. And once you take that relationship outside of the workplace, I think it's very difficult to compartmentalize, because some of these people become real friends. They become friends that even if you left that company, you're still talking to them. You know what I mean? And so that's why I say that's a true skill, to itemize the levels of how deep they can go, or how far in your sharing of being vulnerable with them that you can go.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it's a skill set. And to your point, I put in effort to take relationships outside the workplace just to get more comfortable, whether it's let's go to lunch, let's go to dinner, let's go to happy hour, just a way to get out of the office. Because sometimes
Mm-hmm.
when you're in that office setting, I feel you have a little bit more of a wall up and you're not always as willing to be your authentic self or genuine or share certain things. But I think once you have that separation, you leave the building, the premises, and you have that one-on-one time. Like I said, it could be in a restaurant, it could be in a coffee shop, it could just be taking a walk. I
Mm-hmm.
feel that lowers your shield a little bit where you can build a relationship and it's a little bit more comfortable.
Mm. And you encourage that.
Absolutely. That's one of the things that my role right now is fully remote. When I worked in the office 5 days a week, I try to make an effort to have lunch with somebody different, if not once every week, once every 2 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
where it could be lunch, it could be coffee. I don't even drink coffee, and I go out for coffee all the time, and it's all about part of building relationships. But I try to get people outside the office, and they appreciate it. I feel like we've gotten to this culture where people just go in the office, they have their heads down, they'll bring lunch with them, they'll work through lunch, they'll eat lunch at their desk. So people don't always break away. And when
To
I ask
connect. Yeah.
somebody, hey, are you willing to go out for lunch, out for coffee? They're so caught off guard, like, oh, you want me to leave the office? Like, yeah, you can leave the office. So people appreciate me reaching out and setting up time for them to step out. To me, it makes a big difference.
Yeah. I can see that because you do, as you said, your guards are down a little more. Like you're not thinking about work. You almost forget that you left work. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you be like, oh yeah, yeah, you are a coworker. Let me not say that. But okay, so now that it's like we're moving into a leadership space, have you ever had to, after you build all these relationships, have to come down and provide, I don't want to say just discipline, but from that perspective, a level of discipline or termination for someone who you had built a genuine admiration for, they just messed up, or they did, you know what I mean? Like they did something that was like catastrophic or something that, you know what I mean? It was like, oh, it's policy violation. It's like, it's a no nonsense policy violation. Unfortunate. It is what it is. And this is the outcome. Like, if that happened, how did you handle it? Because I think it's another area where people are afraid to get into leadership because they like to build connection and relationship with people, that now becoming their boss or becoming, their boss and having to do boss like things is a little discouraging because they don't want to have to do those things.
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, when you take on a role as a leader, you have to be comfortable with the situations where you're going to have difficult conversations. Everything is not going to be happy and peachy all the time. So you have to be ready for these situations. I personally haven't had to terminate people. I've had to have difficult conversations with people.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had direct reports that were on the brink of being put on a performance improvement plan and being pushed out of the company altogether. And to your point, I think sometimes you build relationship with people and people feel comfortable and start to get lax and feel like they don't have to put their
Do
best
their
foot
part.
forward. And you have to have genuine conversations with them and have to be honest, like, hey, like I've asked you to do X this many weeks in a row. I haven't seen progress. Like, when what do you want your brand to be? I tell people all the time about your brand image. When you walk into a room, when you walk into a meeting, what do you want people to think of you? People should be excited to work with you. People should know
Mm-hmm.
the work output that you provide. Do you want your brand image to be X, where you're known as the person that misses meetings, the person that doesn't provide deliverables, that doesn't do this? That's not only going to hurt you here at this company, that's going to hurt you everywhere. Like, it's a small world. There are so many times where I've worked at JP Morgan, Chevron, Amazon, Walmart. I've crossed paths with the same people in different parts of the same company and at different companies altogether. So I can burn a bridge with somebody in a role in one company, and that may close the door for me somewhere completely different.
Right.
So one, I have to like talk to them and say, hey, think about your brand image. Your reputation is not only going to impact you here, it may impact you down the road in other business ventures that you want to do. And two, just have to have that conversation with them. This may impact your job right now. If you're not able to perform as your manager, I'm going to fight for you and vouch for you as much as possible. But if you're not performing your responsibilities, there's only so much fighting that I can do. All these companies, they're all based on a bell curve. So there's some people that are towards the bottom, and then bulk of people are in the middle, and then there's some people at the top. And the hard part about being a manager, some people have to be put towards the bottom. And if you're putting your best foot forward, I will fight for you, and I will make sure that you're properly compensated and that you're moving up and you're getting promoted. But if you're not doing your job and everyone around you is outperforming you, there's only so much fighting that I can do. So, we have to have that conversation. Like, not only you're hurting your brand image and your reputation, but this is going to impact your career. Is this the path that you want to take? Do you want to continue working here? Do you want to move up here? And when, so you have to have these conversations. Like I said, sometimes you have to have these difficult conversations, but you can't just build relationships and be buddy with people, and then it gets lax and people don't feel they have to do their jobs. Like, hey, I'm building a relationship with you, but I'm also trying to build you up and get you to the next level, but you have to produce. So,
yeah, I think a lot of times, like you say, things get lax, they get comfortable, and they look for ways to, I don't even want to say manipulate the system, but yeah, sometimes it's manipulate the system. I always attribute those things back to character traits of people, though. And so when I think about like how we encourage people to love themselves and build themselves up and be self-aware and, have a built-in confidence that allows them to perform and do what they want to do from a work perspective. When a person is only looking for comfort and no effort, they tend to be more connecting. In other words, they tend to go out to connect, to build relationships so they do no work or so that they can get over and, for lack of better words, just ease on down the road. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't want to get another position. I'll stay here. They'll give me my 3% raise every year. If that's the standard, they'll do, you know what I mean? Like, but I'm getting comfortable. I'm a settle in the saddle and be non-progressive. And their life looks like that, as a whole. And so that's why I always say, like, that self-love component of being able to like really self-evaluate and really grow and develop an awareness of self that transcends into every area of life always come back to the forefront. It always comes back to the plate, no matter what we're talking about. So when we talking about like, oh, did they really decide to grow or do something different or, move up in the company? You said they're not performing, they're not doing all of these things. 9 times out of 10, it's a internal thing and not necessarily the workload.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Trust me, I know I've met a lot of people who, like you said, status quo, just want to do the bare minimum, keep their job, but they're not trying to go above and beyond. I work from 9 to 5, 5 o'clock comes, my day is over.
Hey, hope you're feeling the love in today's episode. We'll pick back up where we left off in a moment. First, we're excited to share that Tammy has a collection of self-love t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, and journals for you to express how much you love yourself to the world. From comfy hoodies to motivational mugs, there's something for everyone. While you're listening to today's show, feel free to browse the full collection at IamTammyNicole.com. Thank you, and without further ado, let's get back into today's show.
I'm out. I used to wonder like how people can stay in the same position for so many years with no progress, with no growth, when everybody's looking for promotion or, to do something different, and they are really comfortable in that one seat.
And I think it depends on the company. Like sometimes these companies are so big. Like I said, I've worked for Amazon, Walmart, where there's just so much redundancies, where multiple roles are working on the same thing, similar things. Their teams are so big. Sometimes someone can kind of slide through the cracks and not really put their best foot forward, but no one really notices. And then at a certain point, if they've been at the company for 5 years, 10 years, it almost looks bad on the manager. If like after 10 years, you realize this person hasn't been doing anything, is that person's fault, or is it the manager's fault for not actually managing them and making sure that they're working on their deliverables? So I think it can happen easier at some of these big companies. When it's a small company and there's only 500, 1,000 employees, I think it's a little bit more difficult to kind of slide under the radar because everyone has to roll up their sleeves a little bit more. But I have seen it in some of the bigger companies.
Yeah. What habits, daily practices have helped you maintain consistency as a leader over the years?
I'd say the biggest thing, I'm always just trying to grow and learn. So even as far as I have become in my career, I mentor people, but I'm always seeking mentors as well. Mm-hmm. So I'm always picking people's brains and trying to see, what can I learn from them? What situations have they dealt with in their career that I can take that in consideration and maybe change my perspective on how to handle different situations. I'm always looking for training classes that I can take, certifications that I can take. I'm always reading new books. I have a goal. I try to read 6 books a year. I'll only read business books that will, change my perspective on how can I be a better leader? How can I be a better manager? How can I be more efficient with my time? How can I be more efficient with meetings? So I think my thirst for knowledge, whether that's on the job learning, whether that's leveraging mentors, sponsors, whether that's reading, whether that's taking courses, I'm just always trying to be a better version of myself. And one of the things I've read it in multiple books, but it's that 1%. If you try to make yourself better 1% every day or 1% every month, every year, where will you be in a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? So you have to look at it like it's a small wins. If you're constantly trying to improve yourself, the amount of progress that you'll see over time will be instrumental, as opposed to if you don't take those steps, you're going to be left behind.
Agreed. The 1% rule is the best rule ever.
Absolutely.
I think where people get I don't want to even say confused, but they always try to figure out what is 1%. Like they focus on the number, like how do I know if I'm 1% better? And it's like, you're missing the whole point. It's more about like doing something better every day. Learn something about yourself, change a habit, increase confidence, like do something new and better every day. What did you not do yesterday that you could do today? Did you do all things on your to-do list, or did you only get 3 things done? So today, instead of only getting 3 things done, try to get them all done, or get 4. Like it's doing something better than you did the day before, or the week before, or the month before. I always suggest that when people are trying to do the 1% thing, that they actually write down what is the goal of the week, the day, the month, and then decide, did I do this? Did I not do that? Can I do this different or better the next go round, versus worrying about the principle of 1%. Like, I don't know if it was 1% of my X, Y, and Z. Has there been a leadership mistake that you made that was like super pivotal, and what did you learn from it? How did you grow from it?
Yeah, I would say early in my career, I'd say the biggest leadership mistake that I've made, I feel like I have a lot of great ideas. So as a leader, I think one of the first like initiatives, projects that I worked on, I came in, I kind of told the team like, oh, we should do this, we should do this. And even though I felt like my ideas were great, the team wasn't accepting the ideas. They didn't feel like they were a part of the decision making. So regardless if people report to me directly or they don't report to me, maybe they're just a part of a project initiative that I'm working on, I've learned that the importance of diversity of thought, where everyone should feel included in decision making. Everyone should be voicing their opinions. Even there's some people who are more intrinsic that may not be as comfortable speaking up in a meeting. I'll do little exercises where I'll hand out Post-it notes and everyone write down their ideas on a Post-it note. Let's put it on a board and let's look at it as a team. So people who may not feel comfortable saying something in a meeting, they're still voicing their opinion. Or, hey, let's all write on a whiteboard and let's make sure. So now people feel more involved in the decision making, and now they're more excited about implementing change because they were involved, they were heard, as opposed to me just saying, oh, do this, do that. Like that doesn't motivate people.
Right.
People will do it. It's their job, but they're not going to be excited about it. They're not going to put their best foot forward. But when you involve them and make sure their opinion is taken into consideration and they're influencing the decision, now they're excited about the change. Because ultimately, a lot of people, they don't like change. So if you you tell people to do something different, they will push back. But if they're involved in the decision-making process and they're sharing their ideas, now they're more excited. Like, oh, I was involved in it. I'm not just taking out actions of someone told me to do. I was a part of the change. These are my ideas being incorporated into the change. So that's really changed my leadership style, where I'm making sure and I'm pulling people in. Like I said, I know everyone is not as comfortable in a meeting just saying how they feel. If someone isn't speaking up, I'll call them out in a meeting like, hey, John, like, what are your thoughts? I haven't heard from you. Hey, Sarah, do you have any opinions? Or I'll do like I said, the Post-it notes or the whiteboard. But I'll find ways to make sure that everyone's incorporated, everyone's voice is heard. And that way, one, I feel like we get to the best decision because we've incorporated as many people and thoughts and ideas, perspectives as possible. But two, people just feel more excited about implementing the change when they're a part of the process.
That's true. Do you, as a leader, now I'm just asking, this really has nothing to do with leadership per se, but are you also note-taking those that have no opinion at all every time you ask them?
Honestly, I do note-take it. And I tell people, if you're invited to a meeting or meetings and you continuously have no input, at a certain point in time, you're probably going to be stop being invited to these meetings. Like, you're invited to the meeting for a reason. We want you to voice your opinion. And if you're just a fly on the wall that's not taking any actions out of the meetings, that's not voicing your opinion, not sharing your thoughts, like, that's not helpful to the team. And at a certain point, it's going to make you look bad when you stop getting invited to meetings and you're not a part of these projects. It's like, hey, I told you, you need to share your thoughts. You need to share perspectives. If you're just sitting in a meeting and not sharing your perspective, you're not adding any value. And if you stop getting invited to meetings, that's going to look bad on you, because now you're not a part of these projects, these initiatives, these meetings, and now you're just kind of sitting there with nothing to do. So I try to encourage people as much as possible. You don't have to dominate a meeting. If it's a 30-minute meeting, you don't need to talk for 20 minutes. But if you're
Right.
invited to a meeting, you should speak up and share your thoughts.
Good perspective. Good perspective. I think a lot of times, sometimes we just want to do our role, right? You just want to. I can think about times myself going into a meeting, especially if there's a ton of people in it, and it's like, oh no, I don't want to participate in this icebreaker. like, like no, it doesn't. Sometimes in larger groups, it doesn't always feel as genuine as it's portrayed, if that makes sense. It's like, yeah, we want to include everybody, but you have your select few people that are always going to say something. They're always going to throw their idea, their thoughts on the table, which, like how you were mentioning, it low key makes the other people feel like their thought is not necessary to be provided. So I do like the fact that you will encourage people or make it where everybody has to give something. And then everybody gives an opinion about whatever those ideas are. You know what I mean? Like where you kind of like really dissect it, kind of really go into it and say, you know what, this idea works or it doesn't work, or I can see the point from this. Like, can we take half of this and add half of the other one over here, where it does feel more inclusive. How do you handle imposter syndrome in a leadership role?
So imposter syndrome for myself, or like trying to encourage other people to get out of imposter syndrome?
I would say both. You yourself as a leader, how do you handle it? And then as a leader trying to help others navigate through it.
Yeah, so I would say for myself, I feel like I've proven myself. I've worked for some of the biggest companies in the world. I mean, JP Morgan is one of the biggest financial services company. Chevron's one of the biggest oil and gas companies. Amazon's one of the biggest tech companies. Walmart's one of the biggest retail companies. Not only have I worked for these companies, I've worked in people management roles at these companies. I've been successful at these companies. I've been promoted at these companies. So even in my current role, if someone makes me feel like I'm in a role that I don't deserve, I know what I've done in my career. I know I've earned my right to be in this role at this level, in this position, at this company. So to me, that's how I get over anytime I may feel imposter syndrome. Like, hey, I've done a lot. I've worked a lot of different places, a lot of big projects, big initiatives, global initiatives. I've traveled the world for some of the different deliverables I had to work on through work. Like, I've done things that I know other people have not done and have not experienced. So for me, I just kind of reflect on my career and my experiences, and that helps me get over imposter syndrome for myself. For other people, I let people know, like, you were hired for a reason. Like, you went through an interview process. Multiple people interviewed you. We looked over your resume. We looked at your past experience. We tried to see if there's a good fit, not only for the company culture, but for the role specifically. You were hired for a reason. Don't doubt yourself now that your foot is in the door. We brought you in because we felt as though you have a certain level of knowledge, expertise, and we value your perspective, your opinion, and that's why you're brought here. So now's not the time to doubt yourself. Like, you got the job for a reason. You went through the rigorous hiring process and you exceeded over other candidates. Generally, when someone gets a role, they're probably not the only person to apply for the role. There could have been 30, 40, 50 other people that applied for that role that they beat out. So, I have to kind of explain that to them just to give them that confidence. And even sometimes someone may be in a role, and they may be in a role for 3 months, 6 months, and they don't feel confident. They don't feel like they know as much as they should. I have to let them know, like, think back to when you started the role 6 months ago. Think of the progress. This goes back to the 1%. Think of the progress. You don't feel confident in yourself, but where were you 6 months ago? And where are you today? You know more than you think. Like, you have all this doubt, but you're probably more of a subject matter expert than a lot of other people because you've been working in this role and on these tasks more than anybody. So sometimes I have to give them that perspective, like, hey, think
Mhm.
about where your level of knowledge was when you first started and where you are today. You're making progress. You know the information. You just need the confidence. And I think once you kind of build up their confidence, it helps them overcome that imposter syndrome.
How do you think that they can build, or what advice would you give them to build their confidence?
I would say the biggest advice is like continuing to get results in the different projects that they're working on. And then two, make sure that they speak up. And then I would say one thing that's really good for confidence that I try to do personally for my direct reports. If someone works on something and they do a good job, I will give them a shout out in a meeting, or I'll forward an email to my leader to recognize them. I'll find ways to give them that recognition where it builds up that confidence. Like, oh, I did something good. Mike just presented to the entire organization and highlighted this project I worked on, or Mike just reached out to his boss or his boss's boss to highlight the project that I worked on. So at that point, they're like, oh, I must be doing something good if I'm being called out in this meeting, or if he's highlighting me in this email to this leader. And that way I'm boosting their confidence. But I think those small acts, they go a very long way. Like, I don't need to wait until the end of the year when it's the performance review to highlight what someone has worked on. If you've completed something big, I want to make sure that you're being recognized in that moment at that time. And that way, along the way, you're recognizing how important, how valuable your work is and the impact that you're having on the business. And I think that does wonders for confidence as well.
Absolutely. That is my number one rule to build confidence, is to celebrate your wins, no matter how small they are. The smaller wins build to bigger wins, but you have to celebrate them, acknowledge them in order to build the confidence. I don't care if it's something as small as getting up at 5:30 in the morning every day. If you're not a morning person and you tend to roll and hit that snooze button and wait to that last minute, you change that habit and start getting up at 5:30 and you do it 2 days in a row, celebrate that. I did this 2 days in a row. I can do it for the third day. By the time you're doing it 9, 10 days in, it's now a new habit. You've created it, you've built, and that builds confidence in saying, I can do something I set my mind to doing. It builds the trust factor. I think our confidence level resides in how we trust ourselves. And if we don't trust ourselves, it's very hard to be confident in ourselves. And so that to me is a big piece. Like, you have to celebrate the wins, no matter how small they are. So I know you have a book out. Tell me a little bit about it, why you wrote it, what's its purpose for the people.
Yeah. So my book is called The Power of Networking. So the reason that I wrote the book, throughout my career, I've had a lot of people that reach out to me, whether it's colleagues that worked with me, direct reports that report to me, friends of friends that they've connected me with people in their circle, asking for advice in their career, and even just random people. I've had people just reach out to me on LinkedIn. They're like, hey, I looked at your profile. I was impressed. I'd love to speak to you and learn from a little bit more. So I've been giving guidance and help to people for 10, 15 years. At a certain point in time, I kind of felt as though I may have a wealth of knowledge that people are looking for. And I'm only one person, so I speak to as many people and help as many people as I can, but there's only so many phone calls and texts and video calls that I can take. I figured if I put pen to paper and actually write a book, I can get some of my knowledge out to the masses. And I like helping people. I mean, not only as a people manager, like developing people, hiring people, developing people, I just like helping people in general, whether they report to me or not. So I saw it as an opportunity where I can give back and help other people. And it's intrinsically, it makes me feel good when someone reaches out to me and says, oh, like, your book helped helped me get this job. Your book helped me be excel in my role. It's been such a big impact in my life. When I'm going to speak at companies or universities or organizations, when people come up to me and tell me how valuable the insights I provided and how much of an impact, it makes me feel good. So, I mean, that was the purpose of me writing the book is to get my knowledge out there and be able to help other people. It makes me feel good. It makes me happy. Anything I could do to motivate, inspire, and help the people around me. I feel like it brings things full circle. I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for guidance and mentorship of other people. So to pay it forward, I try to do the same to others.
Awesome. I do think it's super important to network. Some people are scared to do it. I don't know, even for myself sometimes, I network better through a technology standpoint than I do going face to face in little gatherings and meetups. Does your book distinguish between the two? Because we're such a technology based world today. Like everything is tech. Send a LinkedIn message, send an email. Everything is like super electronic that sometimes we forget to even get out. You know what I mean? Like, does your book distinguish between the two, or is it focused more face to face?
Yeah, absolutely. So no, I encourage technology. Like I said, we're getting into a world where things are becoming more remote. So like my job today, I work for a startup in cybersecurity. My role is fully remote. I work from home. So I have to leverage technology. I don't go in the office 5 days a week. I still need to network. So I need to leverage Zoom calls and using Slack and different means of technology. So I'm regularly keeping in touch with people. I do emphasize have that face-to-face interaction whenever possible. I don't feel face-to-face interactions can be replaced. So whenever possible, I am flying to headquarters and I am meeting with people face-to-face. Even though my role is fully remote, I know people that work for my company that live in the same city as me. So I'm setting up happy hours and dinners, and that way I don't need to. I'm still having that face-to-face interaction. But to me, networking, I think everyone should treat networking as if it's a part of your job. Like a lot of people, they have this mindset where all I have to do is go into the office and do my job. And if I do it well, I will move up and I will get promoted. That's not the case. It's not always your performance that gets you promoted. It's who you know. If you're building the right relationships with people that are supporting you and vouching for you and willing to put their neck on the line and pull you up and get you, that's what's going to get you to that next level. So you really need to network horizontally and vertically. So when I say horizontally, vertically is networking up. So people levels above you, your manager, your skip level, other leaders within the company, they need to know who you are, the value you bring to the company, the initiatives you're working on. Networking horizontally, that helps you get the job done. There are so many times, this happens to me all the time, where I'll get told, hey, you need to do X, Y, and Z. And I have no idea how to do it. But I know my boss told me I had to do it. So sometimes I can figure out on my own. I can look up documents. I can Google it. I can go on YouTube and try to train myself. But if I have the right people in my network, I may have someone in my network who's already done the same thing. I can cut the time in half if I could just reach out to somebody who knows how to do it and they can either point me in the right direction or show me themselves. So networking horizontally, to me, that helps you get the job done. So you're delivering results. Networking vertically, that helps you move up the corporate ladder and get to that next level.
Awesome. So as we're wrapping up, could you give 3 tips to help people learn how to network vertically? Because I think a lot of times if you're new to a company, you don't really know the upper management. You know your manager, but how do I get beyond my manager to upper net, to upper management so that I can do something about promotion, even if it's cross sectional in reference to different departments. I may be in this one department, but I kind of want to go over there. How do I start developing relationships with those individuals to move without having to per se go through my manager?
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, I recommend leveraging your manager. So your manager may have connections in different parts of the business, different organizations, so they can connect you with people. I, as a manager, I personally, every time I bring in a direct report, I connect them with a mentor. It's not something that I have to do, but my network within the company may be more robust than them. If I bring in somebody new to the company and this is their first week, their first month, I've been in the company for 3-4 years. Of course, I'm going to have a bigger network, and based off what their interests are, what their skill sets, what they're looking to improve, I may naturally know someone that's good to connect them. Oh, it may be good for you to speak to this person in this organization or this person. So you don't always have to look at your manager as the only person, but leverage your manager because they can connect you with other people as well. So I'll say that's number one. Number two, you want to try to get mentors as much as possible. A lot of companies will have formal mentor programs where you can apply and you can fill out a profile. This is my background. This is my skill set. These are my strengths. These are my areas for opportunity. And based off that, they can naturally match you up with someone. But even if there's not a formal mentor program, I would say just try to reach out to different people. And this can be you in the office kind of walking around and potentially just starting up a conversation with someone. This could be you attend a meeting and you see someone and you hear their thoughts, perspectives. Maybe you admire what they're saying, you value it. You reach out to them after the meeting and say, "Hey, would it be okay if I have a conversation? I see you're very knowledgeable in X, Y, and Z. I'd love to learn more from you. Do you have time where I can, talk to you a little bit further?" Or, like I said, join employee resource groups. I think those are good ways where you can expand your network, where you can meet people in different teams, different organizations, and that way you could potentially find someone that could potentially be a mentor. But I think mentorship is crucial. So that way you can really build up your network. And then I'd say last but not least, you have to put yourself out there, and not just within your company, externally as well. There are so many external organizations that you can join that may be relevant to your industry, your field. So as an example, when I worked in oil and gas, I lived in Houston. I joined two organizations. I joined one organization called Young Professionals in Energy, which is open to anybody in the oil and gas industry. And I joined the American Association of Blacks in Energy. So these were external to Chevron where I worked, but it's a good way for me to network with other individuals in my industry, in my function, where I continue to build my network. But this is me putting myself out there. This is me going to networking events outside of work. It has nothing to do with my job specifically, but this helps me build up my network, and who knows what doors may open or what I may learn so I could be more effective at my job. When I transitioned to technology, I did more program management, so I joined the Project Management Institute, and that was a good way for me to expand my network there. Now I'm in cybersecurity. I joined an organization called Cyversity, which tries to get more diversity in cybersecurity. So I'm always trying to find organizations I can join internally at work, externally that's relevant to my industry, relevant to my function. But if you don't put yourself out there, you're never going to have these opportunities to build your network. So you have to really put yourself out there. I think that would be really critical as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that advice. Actually, I'm going to take some of it myself because I probably should join a couple of more groups out here and get out. I'm a homebody, so I got to, COVID didn't make it no better, but it's about time to break out of these walls and do something and get more acclimated. So I hope you guys that are listening are taking heed, because those advice, I think, are really great advice to actually live by, especially if you want to grow your net worth, you have to grow your network.
Exactly.
So tell them how they can find you. Tell them where they can find your book.
Yeah. So my book, The Power of Networking, is available on all platforms. The paperback is available on Amazon. If you're looking for the ebook, it's on Barnes and Nobles. It's on Kindle. If you're looking for the audiobook, it's on Spotify. It's on Audible. So whatever version you're looking for, paperback, ebook, audiobook, it's available on all platforms. You can find me on LinkedIn, on Instagram. My LinkedIn and Instagram is Michael V. Morgan. So V is in Victor, Michael V. Morgan. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, Instagram. My website, I have my own personal website. It's michaelvmorgan.com. So you can reach out to me through my personal website as well. But I hope to hear from all of your guests. Like I said, I'm here to help. I'd love to help any way that I can. So feel free to reach out to me, connect with me, and I hope to hear from everybody soon.
Awesome. Again, thanks for joining us. Y'all remember, leadership is on you and up to you, and it's not based upon your position in management. You can lead from where you are. Remember, love yourself so much that love from others is a bonus. See you next week.
That's a wrap on another episode of Loving Me Before I Love You. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a second to show your support by subscribing and leaving a positive rating and review on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Stay connected with Tammy. Make sure you're following her on Instagram and TikTok at Coach Tammy Nicole. If you like to work with Tammy or have any questions you'd like her to answer, please head over to www.IamTammyNicole.com. Until next time, always remember to love yourself so much that the love from others is a bonus.